Hi, very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Whistine, psychologist from the Home Team Behavioral Sciences Center for MHA. And first of all, I really like to thank SUSS for having me today. And I also wanted to thank Kevin, Kelly, Emily for the very insightful sharing. And this really made my sharing today much easier. So for today, as the last speaker, I will be focusing more on the downside of cyberspace and social media and how it affects our well-being by focusing on scams and the ways that we can do to avoid being scams. So before I begin, will be the caveat of my sharing. My views expressed today do not represent the Ministry of Home Affairs. And some background to my organization, the Home Team Behavioral Sciences Center, or HTBSC, is a research and training outfit within the MHA to provide scientific responses to the challenges faced by the home team and also to enhance the ops effectiveness of MHA through psychology and behavioral sciences. And for me, I've been working in MHA in the last 12 years. And currently, I'm leading the crime and forensic psychology branch, which looks at various domains, including cybercrime, detection of deception, and criminal profiling. And other key areas of my work include applied research in threat assessment and scams. And now back to my presentation. It will be split into 4 parts, looking at why focus on scam in this age of disruption, and why is there an increase in internet scams, who are at risk of being the victim, and lastly, some tips for us to take away. So first, let's look at scams. Why are we looking at scams today? You know that scams cases have been on the rise in the last few years, and despite heavily invested efforts on scam prevention, we still see a rise in the number of cases. As Singaporeans stay home during the COVID-19 outbreak, scam cases continue to rise and even surge by almost 140% during this period of time. And we also see that there's 82 million has been lost to these scams just in last few months. And also, e-commerce scams remain the top scams in Singapore due to more cases reported during the circuit breaker period. And we've also seen a significant increase in social media impersonation scams, especially, as well as banking-related phishing scams. And in terms of the victim's profile, there are several at-risk groups, including the youth, the students, everyone, yeah. So therefore, I'll be focusing on scam today as you and me are equally vulnerable to scam. And this is a recent news article on scams. I'll move on to the next slides. And here are the statistics of the top scams in Singapore in the first half of this year, as mentioned earlier. The top 5 scams are e-commerce, credit for sex, loan scams, social media impersonation, and internet love scams. As you can see from the top 5 scams, most of them actually involve the cyberspace or the social media. And with the advancement of technology and cyberspace leads to an even faster evolution of scam methodology. In this age of disruption, new platforms and tools for communications actually give us the new ways to connect with one another, but also new ways for the scammers to actually exploit us. Therefore, it's actually very easy for us to fall prey to scams due to the very fast changing methods of scams by the scammers. And this is a very grave issues that we are looking at right now because apart from the monetary losses, which is huge, many of the victims do suffer great emotional impact. And some psychological impact due to being scammed can be long-lasting. Therefore, it's very important for us to raise awareness on scam and to prevent ourselves, you and me, from falling prey to scam. With that, I'll move on to the next segment of my presentation today and talk more about why there have been an increase in online scam. And in this highly digitalized world with high internet penetration rate, we can actually attribute a fast increase in scam due to the 3 following reasons: the medium itself, which is the cyberspace, the online space, and the users, which refer to all of us, the online users and the target, as well as the scammers. And in particular, I will focusing on the behavioral characteristics and tactics by the scammers. So first, let me focus on the cyberspace. Why is there a rise in scams? Let's take a look at the cyberspace. Actually, there are many characteristics of the cyberspace that facilitate scams. First, cyberspace actually provides a perfect platform for scammers to operate because it contains technologies that can actually support their scheme very, very easily. And for example, there are tools out there that are available very easily to help the scammers easily profile and look for their victims. And tools out there for them to actually to concurrently target multiple victims across different locations and across the world. There are also new ways for scammers to avoid detection and to provide proof to deceive others online. So for instance, scammers may use various web tools that allow them to falsify information and to remain more anonymous. And scammers may also use online information to socially engineer and tailor scam communications in their interactions or their grooming processes with the target. So with new technology, operations are also more adaptable right now, and there are greater coordination about between all the different scammers, the syndicates across borders in these transnational scams. So if we take all this together, taken together, cyberspace actually allow offenders to be anonymous, the victims to be easily accessible, and the scam operations are to be highly adaptable. So to sum up, there are now so many ways that a scammer can actually trick you to give away your money and your identity with the use of technology. And now let me move on. Secondly, it's also now easier for scammers to persuade the victims using different tactics and cover stories over the cyberspace. Usually, it started with grooming process for many scams, such as the internet love scams, where the scammers gradually persuade the victims to give away their monies or details through a very gradual process. And we also found that some victims actually fall prey to such scams repeatedly. And in our research and analysis of scam scripts by scammers, we also found that there is a pathway where scammers will start the grooming processes by first building rapport using affectionate terms to compliment or to express your love and mutual disclosure of themselves to gain their trust. And then when the rapport is built, this is when they start to appeal to their victims for favor through various other persuasion tactics. And then they will continue to sustain this relationship by making their relationship so exclusive, so the scammer perceived to be so credible. And then finally, when the relationship is formed, then this scammer will actually create this dependency on each other. And then suddenly, this is when the scammer actually reveal their true self. Suddenly they become, they're in distress. They suddenly need help. They need money. They need your personal details. And this is when the victims become so entrenched in this. It's actually very difficult for the victims to break out of this vicious cycle. So here are some examples of the scripts that I mentioned. Yeah. So first, to build rapport through the use of compliment, the scammers might actually praise you, tell you how good you are, how good looking you are. So you feel good about yourself and you trust the person more and you give in more. And then after building rapport and appealing to the victims, the scammers may actually maintain the relationship but establish their credibility so that the victims will not have doubts but when they ask for money. And then they may give you a lot of information about themselves, such as their address, their flight, their numbers, their actions, which are usually not real. But then you will have this false sense of security that you believe that this person is honest because he reveals so much about himself and the request is legitimate. And for internet love scams especially, they may also assert their commitment to this relationship by telling you that I'll be there for you through all seasons. I love you so much, and go on and go on. And then so that you really believe that the love is really real when they seek greater support, and then you'll be there for them. And then when they ask for money, then they will actually exaggerate their level of distress so that they can create this sense of urgency, like, please do this quickly, now, you need to transfer the money to me now, which make the victim wanted to help and to transfer the money almost immediately. So there's actually no room for rational thinking or no room for them to check back with anyone. And then they fall prey to scams. So ultimately, while scammers have different cover stories, their tactics are almost consistent. Scam offenders tend to use persuasion to change the dynamic with their target and to convince them to give away their money or their personal details. And such persuasion principles, I would say, are really well documented and deployed alongside their cover stories. And just an example, these are the 7 most common persuasion tactics commonly used by the scammers. And to summarize, scammers may actually get you to like him, so they're more likely to give in through the use of liking. Scammers might actually show proof of peer support or social norms so that you feel that this person is real, he is good, he's being socially approved, and you can trust him. Scammer might give you something small so that you can actually return the favor, but before you know it, you already have given so much more. And then scammer might actually get you to commit something openly, publicly, to declare your commitment to others. And then you find it hard to go away against your words. When you realize that, this person is actually suspicious. And also scammers might use authority and impersonate officers to get your details out of fear and respect. And this is especially true for China official impersonation scams and also parcel scams, and true for contact tracing scams as well. And for e-commerce scams, scammers may actually highlight the scarcity and the unity of the items that you wanted to buy. So that is hot selling. It's a bargain too good to be true. So you quickly fall prey to it and you purchase the item even without checking. So I also wanted to highlight that it's also very alarming that even without any tactics, we may fall prey to scams in the cyberspace. So now let me talk about the online users. So even without the grooming and the tactics, the cyberspace itself make us vulnerable to scams. And Emily has actually mentioned about the online identities and how it's different from our real identity. And I really want to echo that. This is because cyberspace actually make us feel so much safe as we tend to feel anonymous when online. And then we are less vulnerable since our identity are being protected. And then we can assume a different online persona, as mentioned by Emily. And research also found that we are more willing to disclose our details to others online. We are less likely to practice self-control, to protect ourselves. We are less likely to be more likely to be impulsive online because nobody is watching you behind the screen. You can do anything that you want to do. So we might give away our details recklessly, even without knowing it. And with the fake profiles and the grooming process and the different impressive tactics that I mentioned and the cover stories, we are more willing and more ready to reciprocate to our scammers' requests. So why is there an increase in scam, especially through the cyberspace? It can be due to not just the medium, the cyberspace, not just the scammers, the perpetrator, but also the user, you and me, the target. So now I've underscored the danger of cyberspace and scammer. Now the very important question would be, is there anyone who is more at risk? Okay. So in research, we found that there are certain people who may be more at risk of falling prey. And here are some risk factors that being reported in research. So are you more likely to be impulsive, high compliance, poor self-esteem, poor cyber hygiene, low vigilance, frequent sharing of personal information, poor knowledge of scam tactics, poor attitudes of scam vulnerabilities? But ultimately, I wanted to highlight again that anyone, you, me, anyone, your loved ones can actually fall prey to scam. And you yourself are not immune to scams. I also wanted to share that since I'm here, that we'll be conducting a national prevalence survey of scam to identify unique profile and risk factors of scam victims in Singapore. And in addition, I wanted to share that that we will be publishing a book on cyber deviant behaviors, looking at the different type of cyber crimes, including scams. So do watch out for updates. So now let me move on to the last segment of my presentation. With all this knowledge, what could we do? And now let me share with you some tips on avoiding being scammed. First of all, very importantly, always adopt a vigilant mindset. What I mean by that, always verify information online. Do not open emails from unknown sources. Do not transfer money to others upon request. Even you think that this person is a love of your life or your close friend, your best friend, don't. Stop and think. And do not accept any friends' requests on social media easily, as they can be a scammer. Do not buy gift cards for anyone you befriended online. Do not share your personal details to anyone. And practice healthy skepticism. Always double check what others say. Be alert when you're investing or taking loans online. And lastly, be wary when you're receiving unexpected calls. Do not answer calls with numbers starting with the plus prefix the plus sign, as this can be a spoof call. And secondly, the second tip would be practice good cyber hygiene. That will include maintaining a good password hygiene, using a trusted platform for purchase of goods, and adopting buyer protection features, escrow, by e-commerce platform. And that can include a Lazada wallet, carousel protection, GrabPay, Shopee guarantee, for example, which is actually a third party that hold the money until the good is delivered. Opt for 2FA and OTP. Check the URLs when you're browsing, and do not click on any pop-up advertisement or links on the website that easily. Do not sign up for free trials easily, or download any apps or files from unknown sources, as this can be malware or phishing scams. And lastly, if any of you and your loved ones have recently encountered scams, first of all, change your password of related account immediately. Call the police and 999 immediately. Contact Anti-Scam Center because they can help to freeze your bank account before further losses are made. Alert your bank immediately. And And visit the Scam Alert website if you'd like to share your stories with us so that others can learn from your experiences. And today we are talking about the well-being. So this is actually the final note that I wish to make. Falling prey to scams can be devastating. It can have a long-lasting impact to your well-being. So seek support and information from your friends, from your family, from others, as it can be a traumatic experience. Talk to professionals or anyone about your encounter if you feel that you're really deeply impacted by scams. So to sum up, scam is really on the rise in this age of disruption, and I really have shared the various reasons why. I also have highlighted that anyone is equally vulnerable to scams, including you and me. But fortunately, there are ways that we can do to avoid being scammed and to protect ourselves and our loved ones from scams. So with that, I would hope that that there are useful takeaways for audience. And once again, really thanks SUSS for having me. So stay safe. And also wanted to especially thank my colleague from HTPSC who have contributed to the scam research in our center and for these slides and some references. And if you have more information, feel free to drop me an email. And lastly, if you're interested to know more about HTBSC or the home team, follow us on social media. So with that, thank you so much and stay safe. Thank you.